Welcome, audience, to the One Cell, One Light radio show with your host, Dr. Hildegard Staninger, commonly known as Dr. Hildy, on this eve of the giant Turkey Day tomorrow. I wish all of you and our audience and my guest, I know will wish you a happy Thanksgiving and blessings to all of you. I am very honored today to have on my show Mr. Sunjoy A, who's commonly known as my friend Sunny, from MPS Global Inc. He's president and CEO. And for the last 10 years, well, almost 10 years, we're coming into existence together of working with far infrared and the MPS equipment. It's a great honor that I have him on the show. And we're going to do two special things. We're going to try to cover every kind of question that there ever was on far infrared by defining it, and how does this equipment differ than others. And then the second half is a special tribute to the artists Schofield Shin and the Moon Heater, which is a new product that just came out from MPS for this holiday season. So get your Black Friday ready, and go shopping, okay, whether it's on the Internet or in the stores. Welcome, Sunny, to the show. I appreciate you being on here, especially on the eve of Turkey Day.
Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Staninger. It's my honor.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Call me Hildy. You know me as Hildy. Okay?
Yes. Okay.
And Hilda, I have many names, audience. We just go for whatever the vibe is at the time. But we have this hour we're trying to do, audience, is give you, I'm going to say, the history of the products, the history of what is far infrared, because this is so important, because MPS Global at the time, and then also in the beginning with the pioneering technologies of the staff of MPS Global and their joint, I'm using the term, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sunny, joint venture partners. They pioneered in the field of what is being now recognized as a whole specific area, not only in health and everything. I'm looking at the technology itself. And a lot of this, audience, we can't go into how it's made or anything because of proprietary information and intellectual property, but we can give you the basics and how we scientifically validated it over the years. Correct, Sunny?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So, from your definition, let's define for the audience the history of MPS, and also what is far infrared. And I'll help you out if you need any help, okay?
Okay, that would be great. Well, I'll try to begin with what the heat that we have been exposed through our lifetime. Generally, as we perceive the heat is actually the some kind of the energy that the human can feel and use for many purposes. But this particular far infrared heat is the heat that our body produces. It's the heat that our body needed when we have all those cellular activities and the blood circulation and all the stuff. So, in other words, when you see the far infrared, the energy from the body, and the body produces exactly the far infrared waveband. So this technology was trying to elevate the state of the far infrared for human body. And there have been a lot of attempts to try to do that, and it happens to be the best energy source of the far infrared must be something that we have from the material that we have in our body. And also, it has to be delivered in the form of radiant heat. Okay,
right. So explain the difference, Sunny, because our audience, I know in the early beginning we had so many lectures and so many training sessions for staff and also the communities that MPS was involved with. What is the difference between radiant heat and convection heat? Because so many different units, different equipment don't use. They say they have radiant heat, but they don't.
Okay.
And we'll go into how we can test that.
When there's heat, we have three elements of the heat. One is the conduction heat, and second is convective or convection heat, and the third is radiation or radiant heat. What they are is like conduction is each molecule when it is excited by the heat or energy, and each molecule transfers the energy, vibration, to next molecule. So that's how that energy transfers. So simply to say, if you touch the hot metal, that you can sense the heat from the metal because the cells in your finger actually vibrate at the same time. It comes from the direct contact.
Right, and you have an end result of burning too.
Right,
the flesh,
exactly.
too, because it's vibrating so fast that it's causing decomposition.
There's no filtering it. You touch it, that energy directly transfers to the human cell. So it can be really, really hot, and it can be even burning. Of course, the temperature really have to be hot in order to make the damage or something like that. And second, when there is the heat, let's say it's conduction heat, eventually the air surrounding it will be warmed up and will circulate around it. You can easily imagine like the current heating system, like HVAC. It burns a lot of gas in the generator, and then and the hot air is forced out. So that's called HVAC. In other words, it's a convection type of heat. So when the air is heated up, the air circulates, and usually hot air goes to the higher place, and cooler air comes to the lower place. So it's convection heat involves the circulation of the heat based upon how they are hot or how they are cool. So that's convection heat, and the radiant heat is very, very. We have been exposed many times for many years, but it's really hard to figure out, especially for those who have never listened to it. Radiant heat, the best example I can always use is the sun. The sun is a very hot subject, and because of that, the earth, we have certain temperature on earth. That's how all the living creatures can maintain their lives and create lives within this environment. But if you think about the space between the sun and the earth, this is ice-cold area. So the energy was actually transferred. Actually, the energy was traveled throughout the cold space and delivered to the earth surface directly. And most of us know that all the energy source of the earth that we are using right now, even all the fossil fuels and stuff, has come from the sun from the beginning. So that because of the radiant energy between the sun and the earth, we are having all those energy, even including our temperature these days right now. Our body temperature. So when you think about the heat, there are just to sum of this question, the first one is conduction heat and convection heat, which you can easily notice and easily tell, but the radiant heat is something probably hard to understand. But as I use an example as the sun, you can actually see how this has been working from long time ago.
Right, and also, audience, the sun is composed of different energy that comes off from it, microwave, even radiant heat. What we're discussing, it comes off from UV light, a number of different spectrums. And please know this, that under the radiant heat that has been, the materials that are used in the core technology of MPS, they were designed so that they would create the most far infrared that could be created. And do not confuse radiant heat being the sound of light versus not being radioactive nucleotide. But an example is radioactive nucleotide. You can't see it, you can't taste it or anything, but it goes through you. And that's what Sunny's trying to explain, that it's very subtle and does absorb in the body. The difference, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sunny, is that radiant heat, as we know, we need far infrared in our body. I personally feel that it's part of the makeup of the soul, because when you are lacking far infrared so that you cannot make your own, because all of us, like children, we run and play when we're young and we have so much energy because we glow, we're happy. We are generating our radiant heat, okay? Just as a pregnant woman does, because she's generating radiant heat for herself and the baby. The thing is that every temple, which is a person's body, has a certain amount of far infrared in them, because we're all different. So that particular signature of that amount of far infrared would be specific for that person, just as we know your DNA is specific for that person or other things. But remember this, for far infrared to not travel, but meaning for it to make good circuits within the body, just as with our bioelectrical system within the body, we're dependent on our salt content, our tissues, because they're really like liquid crystals within our bodies that amplify. But when we have that water molecule, that we can make it in a perfect, what we did on the science side by proving it with far infrared, Raman technology confirmed at the University of Central Florida years ago, that it makes a perfect K-bond, meaning a K-bond is where the bond angle of the water will make then a perfect hexagonal, so that the water within you makes, because of that perfect angle, because remember you've got salts in your body, so it has those molecules by the side, that it will make a perfect harmonic with the equipment, because we know that the far infrared material, which is the active carbon fibers and the ceramics that way, it is designed to always do the same thing all the time. So that then we know is the control, because we know it's not deviating from that. And in doing that, it makes that harmonic, meaning it integrates within your body, and then your body is allowed to fill up with enough radiant heat to make yourself generate your own radiant heat, and then you start seeing many different processes of detoxification, et cetera. And we'll go into that in more detail, Sunny, as we progress on the show. But it's, to me, this equipment is a godsend, because it is, in its format, it is, to my knowledge, the only true device that will allow your body to make your own radiant heat without, and we know we've done this with different cultures in that they lay on hands on you, or people pray, and in prayer and getting that quietness in your mind, you do generate more radiant heat, and you can measure that, with the appropriate instruments. But in doing that, you're sending that energy from that person, the other person, or from the universe to you. And I just like it, having a machine, so then you don't have any extra emotional baggage if the thoughts are transferable,
Of course, exactly. Well, you as you mentioned, Dr. Staninger, I'm Hildy, the way that our body produces the far infrared is the cellular activity from our observation. And so therefore, in order to increase the cellular activities of our body, we need something that is similar to our body ingredients and get it activated, and also delivering the energy in the form of radiant heat. So that was the motivation for us to find out, to look for various sources of material. We have tested a lot of ceramics, and also other like mud materials, and also other ingredients, including the carbon fibers. But so far, the only way that we could use that natural heating source to be the heating element by themselves has been using the crystallized carbon fibers. So it was about 13 or 14 years ago, we have finished all the testing to human body, and we have found out that when we increase the temperature, when we produce the heat, radiant heat from the crystallized carbon fibers, it produces the same wavelength and also same carbon frequency that our body's carbon can accept and resonate together. It's called harmonic resonance, as you mentioned just a while ago. And it was exactly how the sun heats up the earth from a long distance throughout the cold airspace. I mean cold space. So when the crystallized carbon fibers generate and accelerate and vibrate themselves and maintaining high temperature, and bodies around nearby, that material also gets excited, regardless of the air in between. So
right, and I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
Okay. So when the crystal carbons are excited, in our body, it's 18.5% is carbon, and probably it's the second largest popular body component in our body, and probably the most one is the water, about reaching 70% or more. But we haven't been able to find out the using the water as a heating source. But carbon fibers, crystallized carbon fibers, could be the best option for us. But the big thing about our technology, since you also wanted me to compare with other technologies as well.
Right.
Yeah, there have been a lot of other carbon. The great far infrared heating companies, far infrared heating elements, and a lot of companies claim that this has been the best, and upon their tests and medically proved, and there have been a lot of claims like that. But what I wanted to tell to the audience today was that our technology, which is active carbon fibers, have been used about more than 10 years in medical field. And Hildy, you know about this very well.
Right. We pioneered, and we'll give some case studies too.
Right.
Like Emma and things. Meaning, let's put it this way: whether it was MPS directly or myself, from their chief science officer, in establishing the test, and even a majority of them in the very beginning, we're talking 10 years ago, doing them myself and getting all the different scientists together. We did some phenomenal stuff in short time, short budgets to prove it. But what is nice about that whole studies is that now we were 10 to 15 years ahead of any of the industry. So at that same time, now it's getting into like a common word within households now.
Exactly. So that's how we know what our material does, how it works, therefore, and what you can expect, thanks to our 10-plus years of experience and the research. And we know exactly what it can do and what people can expect. But if you look around a lot of other companies, what they're saying is that their newest technology is the best whatsoever in the industry. But if you take it back in the history, they have just recently changed it to new material. To me, honestly, I'm still learning about the far infrared from active carbon fibers. I mean, Hildy and I have been writing books about it based upon our 10 years plus research. Therefore, we can deliver the exact and precise information to our potential customers. But I wonder how the new material, if I recall about 10 years ago in my position, how I can tell to people so aggressively and with such a confidence, say this will do this, and that. That will be very, very embarrassing to me, because now we know what it can do. I mean, what people can expect from our technology. But that was one point that I wanted to bring to this show.
Yeah, it's come a long way. I mean, audience, we did studies in the very beginning, and Mo Young pioneered this thing. We called it the ice cube test, where we would put a rainbow, because the pad wasn't in existence at that time, and you'd put an ice cube on top of it, and you would have another ice cube in your hand, which, remember, your body will make radiant heat and also convection heat. And so you could take a penny, which will heat up because it's copper from your own body heat, go in, put it in, and it will melt and cut like butter in your hands. But when you go to the ice cube that's on the far infrared pad, and at that time the rainbow, you could just make an etch in it. You could cut through it, but it was harder than the other one because it didn't have the convection heat. And what was always interesting, too, is that we'd put 2 cups of ice cubes, same amount of ice cubes, or one outside the sauna, one inside the sauna, and the sauna's ice cubes would melt slower than the ones that were outside. That was always amazing to myself.
Exactly. That's how the far infrared interacts. I mean, pure far infrared interacts with different materials, including the water.
Right, and it makes whatever it's interacting with, whatever that media is, audience, it makes it pure. So it was making the water molecules line up in the frozen form, which is the solid form of water, and thus allowing it to retain its heat. Just like I learned from my dad years ago, very smart man, which is, if you have frozen goods or foods and you don't have any ice chest or anything, you just take some newspaper, wrap it together, because it's wood. It will keep the heat in. If they're frozen stiff, they will be frozen stiff for 8 to 10 hours still. So it's a neat experiment if you ever want to do that.
Yeah, because of that effect with pure far infrared, when it resonates to human body cells, the resonate goes through the deepest part of the body, and increases the core temperature. From my knowledge, from our test in our end, staying in about half an hour in one of our saunas increases up to 3 or 4 Fahrenheit degrees in core body temperature. And it's not just the result of the being exposed to a hot environment. It is it is what is happening from the reactions of the harmonic resonance effect from the source, which is the carbon fibers, crystal carbon fibers, and our body. So therefore, the pattern of the cellular activities or carbon frequency or carbon vibrations are exactly what is supposed to produce from our body. But if you look at most other far infrared technologies, if you take a look at in their source of the heat, mostly it's made of the metal, and then maybe the carbon or ceramics will be covered on top of the metal heating element. But in the science of radiation, the source usually dominates the characteristics or physical characteristics of the frequency. Therefore, even though there is no sensor probably precisely measure what the differences are, but our human body and also animals. Interestingly, I have a cat at home, and the cat sits only on those crystallized carbon fibers heater, just next to it.
Yeah,
I have other heaters. I have other like jade mattresses, but not made of the active carbon fibers. I mean, it sometimes comes, sometimes it doesn't. Especially if there's no person on there, it doesn't come. It doesn't come on the mattress. But when our heaters, far infrared heaters, are turned on, it exactly sits just next to it, whenever it is on. So
I know cats are phenomenal with. This is ideal for pet care or just, let's put it this way, good health and cleaning out the pets, because so many people put so much pesticides on them. You go to the groomers and then here's the flea and tick dip and that, and it accumulates in the body, of these animals. But I will say dogs will go to it, but not like cats. Cats know what's good for them.
Right. I mean, they always sit just next to it, and whenever it's on, it doesn't leave from the spot.
Right.
But the point is whether it is cold or hot in the environment temperature.
Right. You could have
even in the summer. I mean, the cats are like they have a lot of fur, and they're supposed to be hot. I mean, compared to the human usually, but even in the summer, we turn it on during the night, and the cat actually fights with my kids just to be next to the heater.
To the pad. I know. We Aurora in my office, she has 2 cats, Emo and also Deacon. And Deacon's older. He's 12 years old, half Siamese, and he knows when that rainbow's on. You know, it's cradled up like a little cave. He goes right under there, and he'll stay there forever, and so will Emo. And they fight between themselves trying to get in there. So I know exactly what you mean. They're smart, and who knows, they might have a little bit of Sekhmet and Bast in them, so they know what's good for them, you know.
Exactly.
But it's amazing when you watch these activities too, especially children. They absorb. What I've found from my experience, they absorb the radiant heat faster because they're more open or less pollution as we as adults are that. And with anything, audience, pollution will get into the body, whether it's a virus from an inoculation, or you've been exposed to chickenpox or measles, or you've been exposed to pesticides or chemicals in the workplace, whatever those pollutions are, or through the air particulates, etc. The thing is, this accumulates in your body, and if your body is not getting rid of it, it will store it, because what it will always do is survive. It sees everything coming into the body as food. Not necessarily that these materials are good for you. Like, I don't think artificial rice with modified waterborne polyurethane, which is styrene, is very good for you at all. But the thing is, this exists in our world right now. And as people wake up, things will change. But the thing is that with these materials, the more you're able to absorb the radiant heat, the more increased circulation, the more metabolic activity. And that goes back to in the mitochondria of the cells, which are known as they're little peanuts in shape, and they are very energy sources within the cells. And I call this process our cosmic cellular burst, because far infrared will match also the star constellations, because that's how NASA measures it, you know, for new stellar constellations and stars, new novas. The thing is that with that, 2 diphotons, which are 2 particles of light, before they make 1 photon, which is a single light unit, it needs a certain amount of far infrared to make it stick together to make photon, the light. Far infrared radiant heat is basically not a light source that we see as a photon. It has no photons, a half electron spin, but what it generates is this, I'm going to call it the sound of light. That's why in our other show in June, when we did on superlight, was so interesting to Sonny and myself, and he loved talking to Dr. Milowski in reference to a superlight, the magnetization of light. But when it goes in and makes 15 photons, the ATP will start metabolizing and making energy so that it could break down these molecules. If you have 14 photons of light, that process is not going to work. So, as it stimulates this to create more light within the cell, as it's cleaning up and stimulating the carbon and making the harmonic, you end up perspiring. You absorb the heat, you'll perspire, but it'll be different than regular perspiration. It will be fresh water, and the saltier the perspiration comes is the more toxins and residue that is coming out that may have infiltrated into the cytoplasma of the cell where it is a saline solution versus in the fresh water on the outside where we have vitamin C. And the thing is that in the next phase, when that happens, you will sweat, you'll get red. If you stay red for 10 minutes, I've seen people come out beet red. It's not from the unit. It's from the compounds or problems that they have in carbohydrate metabolism or the buildup of carbon monoxide. If you stay red for 10 minutes or longer, it's carbon monoxide, antidote, oxygen, and vitamin C. But the thing is, the next thing is you become hungry for far infrared, and in this hunger, you want to use it all the time, and then that's the halfway point, as I tell my patients and clients. And when you have that halfway point, then you start making your own radiant heat, and then everything happens real fast. And then you use it as maintenance or however you want to use this piece of equipment. Do you have anything to add to that dissertation, Sonny?
Of course. Since you mentioned that, I also like to introduce this technology as a good training method for each cell of the body. And a lot of companies, a lot of other technology, when they introduce it, it sounds like it's some kind of a continuous supply to the body just to maintain the status of far infrared or the status of the energy. But the way that we look from 10 years or longer history is that this particular active carbon fiber source actually trains the cells of the body. It's not just the energy supply just on the time, but once you begin using it now, and then the cells begin remembering what it's supposed to do. Remember, we have all those good memories when you're young and healthy, but as we get older and getting too much troubles in the illnesses, we don't have such a good memory in ourselves. That's how we develop the diseases and the worse and worse situation. But when you have a right source, especially from such as like pure carbon fibers, now the cells begin remembering what it's supposed to do, how the frequency or vibration pattern is supposed to be. So the way that I recommend people is not just use it until you feel better and safe. I recommend people to use it as a training method. They use a sauna or any equipment of MPS products and then use it. And now they will feel their energy level has been elevated, and then they try to keep going with that status. But when their physical capability drops, then use the sauna once again so that they can be supplied with more energy. And by keep doing this training session, sooner or later, that person will be able to generate their own far infrared from the right patterns of vibration of the cells in their body. Therefore, it's really going back to the ability that they were able to produce when they were young and healthy. So it's not just like the Band-Aid that they can do like whenever it is needed, but by doing it, eventually going back to their earlier and younger and healthier period of time.
Right, and that's an excellent point, especially with the new article that just came out on the DNA, that it does have memory and talk, and what we've done here at Integrative Health Systems, and MPS was involved with it, Sunny and I actively involved in what we were doing with the research with the ARC-HG1, where it was a cellular and DNA and cellular linguistics communicator to talk to the cells to get the right information to it. And what we recognized is that true radiant heat is like the universal ohm. So if you were the first part of creation as an ohm, then anything that you add to it would be add-ons to it, but it would have to go back to the source, which would be the ohm, and in this context being the far infrared that knew what the true pattern was of that creation so that your cell would remember what it is. It's just a matter of time. Everything's waking up. And it's like we've had a guest on the show, Mikhail King, at the beginning of this month, and he said it's time to look at our human body as a cell within the whole planet Earth, and all of those cells of humans need to talk to each other, and communicate. You have that feel, as it's going on, just like you do as the individual cells within your body and getting the organs to work.
Exactly. Therefore, for example, for the weight loss, the way that we apply far infrared into the weight loss system is that we put people in one of our units called Ray. It's a little bit bigger version of our sauna. And
right.
Then,
it has more panels, so it's more intense.
More panels and larger, so that it's large enough for people to work out inside. Just simple as that. However, we only let them do less than 20 minutes of workout inside, and only about 10 seconds of the maximum output during the whole 20-minute session. And because of 20-minute session, for the next 48 hours, their body is now always ready to burn the extra fat. In other words, now it remembers what is the energy source that can be used from our body. So
right.
it helps to maintain about 48 hours of burning fat, and therefore on third day they do another 20-minute session. So by doing this, it's not just the working out period. A lot of people think that they have to go visit the gym and work out for 2 hours and 3 hours to begin to burn the fat inside of the gym. But what we are talking about is once we ignite the candle will burn itself until the candle is all burned out. It's exactly the same way. When you are ignited in our far infrared system, once your metabolism was shifted, and then the rest 48 hours will be keeping the same rate of metabolism. It exactly applies also to healing as well.
Healing and detoxification too.
Exactly. For any healing, you need active cellular activities. Therefore, mostly when you get cold, you see the elevated temperature of the body. It's just to increase the immune system, or just to the wake up the natural healing system in our body. So when you have higher cellular activities in the body, and then you will keep not just the weight on the metabolism, but healing capacity also increases as well. And you can keep it until you do the next session. So by doing that, you will gradually may not need to use the carbon fiber frequency therapy as often as you had to before, because now your body perfectly remembers what you have to do when you're overweight or when you are ill. And that's the whole idea why we have to use the proper material to create or to deliver the energy to the body that what is needed.
Right, and it's so important when you have this. And we had a very hard case, emotional case for all of us, and it was from a center that started in the Pensacola area, Intracell, with Jody Mullahan, who got a client and I worked with, which was Emma, and I know Sunny worked with her too. She was a young lady at that time, 4 years old. She was playing out in her grandparents' backyard after Hurricane Ivan. And what happened is a big 350-pound oak limb fell on her, broke her back, broke her legs, ruptured organs, everything in this young girl. And she was in the hospital. She had black and blue marks that were told by the physicians that would be there permanently on the trunk of her body, etc. She came to Intracell. I outlined a program for her and worked with her directly. And within 30 days, what happened, Sonny, when we were told she'd never walk or anything?
Right. I mean, she was literally nearly walking by herself, and about some period later, she was actually able to dance, back to dancing class again.
Right. And this is from total, what I'm saying, multiple surgeries, etc. This young lady, Emma, God bless her, she had the will to live and survive. And she was an excellent patient. She would do what was told. Her mother and father was very supportive, and also the staff of Intracell at that time. And she made the miracle happen, and because she used the equipment, so it allowed it to have the tools that was needed to make that miracle happen.
Yeah, I think that at that time the young lady actually was supplied with the right energy, and she accepted it in the right time and right amount, thanks to Dr. Hildy and in the step in the Intracell. And I mean that has been like her the turning point from the permanent damage or even death, according to her mom. I mean,
right, and at the same time, she was a young kid. I mean, she was 4 years old when the accident occurred. When we saw her, she was 6. So 2 years left since that time, any calcifications, but it was still where the child is growing, cells, etc. So, as you said, it was right time, right place.
Absolutely. I mean, we have many other testimonials like that, and people, whenever they see the changes, they feel like it's phenomenal, because they haven't been able to remembering what their body was supposed to doing, because it was such a long time ago, or they've been suffering too much from their current condition.
Right, and they only remember the pain and the suffering. And that's why it's so important, no matter what you use or what you believe in, but if you keep thinking, I have this disease, or I have this, or I got this, you need to get past that, above it, and just send out the memory to yourself that you're going to get well, you're going to get over this, it's going to happen. And sometimes it's where you just need the right tools. I have always loved this equipment because it was not invasive, it was the best way to detox, and it was ideal for hazardous materials to get out of the body that way. And also, while we're not only with Emma, because she had broken bones, etc., but we have used the rainbow in particular with hip replacement individuals where their physicians have written prescriptions for either treatment of using the rainbow or to get the rainbow. The thing is that it accelerates the healing of any type of surgery too.
Oh yeah, I mean that also I have seen. I have come across like a lot of people who have bone issues, broken bones, and through the exercise activity and stuff. And the worst situation was the one who was using who has broken her legs by the skiing activities, and then the surgery was really difficult. And she had to go through a lot of long hours of operation, and also the next problem was such a long time and hardness of the physical therapy, so that she could gain the optimal the range of motion. And at those periods when the what is it called, cast was on her leg, and we've begin using the rainbow for her.
Right, because it will go through the cast.
Exactly, and but by the time they were eliminating the cast, and she put into the physical therapist, and within 1 day she gained full range of motion. No one could even believe how it could happen, because the surgery was very serious one, and she had to stay in the cast a very long time. Normally, let's say if it was 3 weeks, she was staying there about two months or something. And then once it's eliminated, she was getting the full range of motion. So that actually supports what I've been talking about, the the capability of those radiant heat, they can activate cells, and they can give so much activities in the cells. Therefore, they were just ready to move around.
Move around, heal, and repair. Also, I have used this whenever anyone has gone that I know of our clientele or recommended to others that they put the rainbow on their, the lung area, the upper chest, especially if you've had anesthetic of any type of surgery. It is amazing when they put that unit on their chest. You will smell the anesthetic in the room as it's coming out of the lungs. And it's amazing because the skin covers the body. It's only 2.5 square meters. The lungs is 7 square meters. So you wonder how much of the anesthetic is still in the lungs after surgery, and its coexistence with other toxins of how it could stimulate lung cancer or anything like that. I mean, it's an irritant to begin with. But I was always amazed with that. And that includes if you ever have any dental surgery where they use laughing gas or nitrous oxide or any of that. It helps open up, increase the circulation of the lung area. But you can smell it in the room when it's coming out, the anesthetic.
Like the good other examples could be like people who have like Lou Gehrig's disease or Parkinson's disease. Once they get it, it never gets improved. It's either getting worse faster or getting worse slower. That's all you could do in the management of those diseases. And I have seen a couple of people who identified what they are suffering from, and telling me what was doing our equipment, either sauna or the rainbow. They said they were actually able to improve the mobility. And like for instance, if they weren't able to move their fingers for a long time, and their fingers began moving, for the person who couldn't move even the finger, there was no way that she could turn around on the bed by herself, but she was able to do it in about a few weeks later. I think this is all about the acceleration of healing and also giving them the ability to exercise the cellular vibration.
Right. I agree with that because many times, let's just address what causes the cellular vibration to change is whenever you have an irritant or something that is acidic coming into the body is trying to neutralize it. And what the body does is send out calcium that can come from the cell membrane or nerves if it's attacking the nerve. And in that process, it calcifies or makes like calcium deposits, like little particles there, and those particles can get stuck in the tissue or on the cell and make it like calcified. Well, it's calcified, and in this process, it can't let nutrients in, energy in, or the right conversation of the cells. Just look at our cells. If we put a cotton in our ears, we don't hear as well as we do without the cotton in our ears. So if you buff that hearing sound, you're not getting the right information to the cells, whether it's done by photophotonics, meaning light and sound, or not.
Of course. Since also this is like as we also earlier mentioned that the training method of the cells, what I would like to point out is that Hildy and I have been writing how to use our system, like including sauna and moon eaters that we are going to introduce in the second hour later. But this is really important because unless you know how to use the training equipment, you don't expect what you can get a benefits out of it. And during our like last over 10 years experience, we have developed each specific ways how we can help to improve certain problems by using our equipment. And this is the whole point is how to use it and what you can expect.
Right, and that's the whole thing. And I know MPS and Integrative Health Systems, we've collectively worked together, and me individually with MPS. The thing is that many of these technologies of far infrared will be applied into new technologies that will assist the body in healing, as with doing sensing and doing many different things for humanity. The other thing is, too, I had a question by an individual at one time, Sunny. I know you mentioned it in reference to your cat, in reference to the amethyst mattress. There's some nice products out there that use different crystals, by crystals being amethyst, jade, or other mineral-type components, and in whatever however they use it. But the thing is, what is the difference between like those type of equipment or machines or technologies, I should say, as compared to MPS?
Okay, so there are two things. One is what is actually the heating element is made of from of those equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Those crystals, since they are not electric conductive, they don't produce heat by themselves. There must be another different heating element. Mostly it is metal. As I stated earlier in this show, the metal heating element affects greatly to the frequency of the radiant heat from the equipment. Therefore, your body really doesn't respond to it. I have other equipment. I have been testing other equipment, like including jade, amethyst, and other like carbon products. But every of them, when I tested it, it doesn't actually increase my core temperature in a given time as fast as my equipment could do, because my body does not really respond to it effectively or fast enough to increase to communicate with that particular frequency, because it's coming from the metal or semiconductors. So it's kind of a mixed situation, and your body knows that it's not something that you can respond ideally. Therefore, the cells are not creating harmonic resonance. Maybe it does partly, but it doesn't. But from our technology, it's actually giving out the 100% matching carbon frequency, because the carbon themselves are heating element, and there's nothing else on it. So your body can freely create a harmonic resonance. If you go into our sauna, I know that here you have our equipment in there in your facility there.
Right.
If you go into our sauna, what you feel is, of course, you feel the heat, but you can feel the heat getting cooler, and cooler if you stay there long enough. This is completely different situation than you go into other warm environment. Let's say just regular sauna or other sauna brands products, or maybe in your hot garage during the summer. If you stay there 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it gets worse, because your body keeps telling you that it's not an environment that you may want to stay longer. So it keeps giving you a warning signal to get out of it. That's the symptom. That's the proof that your body is not harmonically resonating with it. But in our sauna, if you stay 10 minutes and 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you feel the temperature around is getting cooler, even though it's actually getting hotter inside the temperature, because your body keeps absorbing it, and your body maintains a higher energy level. Therefore, comparatively, the surroundings are feeling cooler. So this is only can be done when there is harmonic resonance.
Right, and you brought out a very interesting point, as your frequency goes higher, or higher frequency, you resonate with it. And that's true. Remember, when the more polluted you are, you have a lower frequency, because your true frequency, which is the true you, your vibration, cannot be expressed because it's trying to get out of the pollution factor. And in doing this, as that comes and releases the pollution through the detoxification mechanisms within the body, your vibration will be higher. It will be as true as what you were on the first day you were born. The vibration of you the person, you the extension of your ancestors, and you as possibly the last representative of you on this planet.
Exactly. And also the second aspect that you just asked me a question to compare all the other equipment that we're using, other crystal and stuff, is that how long they have been using that material and how much they know about it. I mean, there's no way that we can test it in a short period of time as far as our health is concerned. I mean, human body is so sensitive, we don't know what it will turn out to be in next year or in next couple of years. We know as a group of people who can do all the researches using scientific aspect and including, we have been using this technology over 10 years. Now we have established in ways how you use it and what you can expect from using this technology. But for those newly adapted technology and material, you really don't know. Honestly, it's really hard to tell. You may have some general understanding of that technology or the material, but because the communication between the radiant heat materials are so sophisticated, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to understand, and therefore to develop the ideal way to use it to train these cellular activities in the body.
Correct. And I want to add, many times we have on the warning, if you're pregnant, do not use, heart, etc. this way. And we always ask, to discuss this with your physician. But from the experience I have with pregnant ladies using the equipment during the pregnancy, it did never do any harm to the baby or anything. It just made the baby so much bigger and healthier because it was absorbing all the nutrients because it had good circulation, et cetera, this way, and the mother was healthier, et cetera. Majority of every delivery, though, for a person who used the MPS far infrared during a pregnancy was they had to have a cesarean, but the baby, not within a week or that, could hold up their head upon delivery. It's amazing how smart these children are. And that I hear our music in the background. We'll finish up a little bit with this hour and then go into our second hour in reference to moon heaters.
Informed, enlightened, alive and amplified. This is the Living Light Network.
Cellular activities and the blood circulation and all the stuff. So, in other words, when you see the far infrared, the energy from the body, and the body produces exactly the far infrared waveband. So, this technology was trying to elevate the state of the far infrared for human body, and there have been a lot of attempts to try to do that, and it happens to be the best energy source of the far infrared. Must be something that we have from the material that we have in our body, and also it has to be delivered in the form of radiant heat. Okay,
right. So explain the difference, Sonny, because our audience, I know in the early beginning we had so many lectures and so many training sessions for staff and also the communities that MPS was involved with. What is the difference between radiant heat and convection heat? Because so many different units, different equipment don't use. They say they have radiant heat, but they don't. Okay. And we'll go into how we can test that. Welcome, audience, to the One Cell, One Light radio show with your host, Dr. Hildegard Staninger, commonly known as Dr. Hildy, on this eve of the giant Turkey Day tomorrow. I wish all of you and our audience and my guest, I know will wish you a happy Thanksgiving and blessings to all of you. I am very honored today to have on my show Mr. Sunjoy Young, who's commonly known as my friend Sunny, from MPS Global Inc. He's president and CEO. And for the last 10 years, well, almost 10 years, we're coming into existence together of working with far infrared and the MPS equipment. It's a great honor that I have him on the show, and we're going to do two special things. We're going to try to cover every kind of question that there ever was on far infrared by defining it, and how does this equipment differ than others. And then the second half is a special tribute to the artists, school of what is being now recognized as a whole specific area, not only in health and everything. I'm looking at the technology itself, and a lot of this audience, we can't go into how it's made or anything because of proprietary information and intellectual property, but we can give you the basics and how we scientifically validated it over the years. Correct, Sonny?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So, from your definition, let's define for the audience the history of MPS and also what is far infrared. And I'll help you out if you need any help, okay?
Okay, that would be great. Well, I'll try to begin with what the heat that we have been exposed through our lifetime. Generally, as we perceive the heat is actually some kind of the energy that human can feel and use for many purposes. But this particular far infrared heat is the heat that our body produces. It's the heat that our body needed when we have all the when there's heat. We have three elements of the heat. One is the conduction heat. And second is convective or convection heat. And the third is radiation or radiant heat. What they are is like conduction is each molecule when it is excited by the heat or energy, and each molecule transfers the energy, vibration to next molecule. So that's how that energy transfers. So simply to say, if you touch the hot metal, that you can sense the heat from the metal because the cells in your finger actually vibrate at the same time. It comes from the direct contact.
Right, and you have an end result of burning too.
Right,
exactly. Too, because it's vibrating so fast that it's causing decomposition.
There's no filtering it. You just touch it. That energy directly transfers to the human cell, so it can be really, really hot, and it can be even burning. Of course, the temperature really.
Silk Shin and the Moon Heater, which is a new product that just came out from MPS for this holiday season. So get your Black Friday ready, and go shopping, okay? Whether it's on the internet or in the stores. Welcome, Sunny, to the show. I appreciate you being on here, especially on the eve of Turkey Day.
Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Staninger. It's my honor.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Call me Hildy. You know me as Hildy. Okay?
Yes. Okay.
And Hilda. I have many names, audience. We just go for whatever the vibe is at the time. But we have this hour we're trying to do, audience, is give you, I'm going to say, the history of the products, the history of what is far infrared, because this is so important, because MPS Global at the time, and then also in the beginning with the pioneering technologies of the staff of MPS Global and their joint, I'm using the term, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sonny, joint venture partners, they pioneered in the field